Hey y'all, before we hop into this really awesome video and going to check out a lot of stuff in the garden and things that have been happening, I wanted to let you know of everything that's back in stock just real fast. So I mentioned in the last video that we put like 11 different tinctures back in stock, and that's still true, plus some now. So I want to give you a rundown. We have chamomile, which is for sleep aids, hibiscus, lowering cholesterol, lowering blood pressure, dandelion root, raspberry leaf tincture, astragalus root, chill out, mullein, chickweed for weight loss, valerian, elderberry, immune, cold, flu fighting, turmeric, anti-inflammatory, ibuprofen replacer. All of those are back in stock. Plus many more like echinacea, milk thistle, rose hips, all of those are back. And people are catching on, and these go really fast. And we're trying to keep up, but our stock's dropping pretty fast. So if you want these things, go ahead and make sure you go grab it, because once they're in stock, they just always go fast. And we're trying to stay ahead as a small business, but sometimes that can be a little difficult. But this is your warning. This is your alert that everything's back in there. Go grab it while you can. All right, y'all, let's jump into this video. Hey, y'all, and welcome to Stivers Homestead. I have a lot to show you today, but we got to start in the kitchen. So the garden is really starting to show out. These are the literally tomatoes I just got today and a little bit of yesterday. And look at this big fella. We had one huge one that I weighed, and it was like 1.5 ounces, which is a pretty good sized tomato. You know, if you can get a 2-pounder, that's a really massive one, but this one was 1.5, and that one's pretty close to it too, so that's really exciting. And then also in the fridge, a bunch of cucumbers, bunch of squash and zucchinis. Jen's actually had to make a whole half gallon of pickles from all the cucumbers that we've been getting. And the fridge is starting to get really full with tomatoes and a bowl of cherries. Okay, now it's time to go outside. So the first news to share, y'all remember my awesome Mexican sunflower that we had growing right here? It was, way up here. Well, through all those bad storms that we're all getting, it knocked him over. Well, it actually kind of snapped it down here at the base, but as you can tell, it's still growing. So it's just working its way back up. It just doesn't look as pretty as it is, but I'm just thankful it's still going. And then now for the kitchen garden. So this Mexican sunflower is really showing out. And the zinnias are still going. However, these guys have kind of ran their course. They're starting to actually go to seed, but we still got a little bit of prettiness going on. This has been one of the better pepper years that we've ever had. These pepper plants are ginormous, and it's a lot thanks to how hot it's been here in southeastern Kentucky. It's usually not this hot. But as you can tell, we got all kinds of jalapenos on here. So I can get you in there. Along with bell peppers and banana peppers. And these tomatoes, they're absolutely wild. You can see there's some there, and we're starting to bend over. I get to a point with my tomatoes, and we'll talk about it more when we get to the big garden. But once they get so big, you know, I'm not really getting in there and trimming anymore. I'm just letting them focus on the plant and focus on the fruit and just do their thing. But as long as they got a little bit of a stance that they're tied up to, that way my tomatoes aren't laying in the dirt and all that good stuff, that's all I really care about. After that, I can go in there and just search for my tomatoes. The green beans over here are starting to run their course. We've been picking, but you can see we're getting to that area where they're drying up and just not really doing much. But look at this zinnia right here, y'all. Isn't she beautiful? She's almost the size of my hand. Y'all know how I love zinnias. Hi, Rusty. You protect the garden? Yeah. No, you can't get out just yet. Not yet. For those that watch and wonder, Rusty doesn't stay over here the whole time. Basically, once we're done getting in and out of the house, out of the property for the day, we open his gate up and he hangs out with us most of the day. But right now, it's still garden time. So here is the jungle. Now, before we go jumping into these beds, remember, especially if you're catching this video and you're new and you haven't seen some of our previous videos, there are 600-foot beds in here. And when we were doing this, when we first built them, it was garden all the time. We were doing everything in the garden. And as time has just changed over the last 5 years and our kids getting over and getting into more activities, I chose just to use certain spots this year. I wanted to make sure it was a manageable amount of work that we were doing and not overwhelming us. So yeah, you're gonna see certain beds, that's just all weeds. And we'll get in there with weed eaters and cut them down as fall gets a little bit closer, but let's focus on what actually is growing. So first up, the wild and crazy tomato bed. And y'all, these things are tall. They're really way up there, and I'm 6 foot tall. So if I actually had them all tied up, we'd probably have about 7-8 foot tall tomato plants here. But check out some of these tomatoes that are on here. We got a big old bunch right there. You kind of pull it up. You got a bunch starting here. Look at this big guy. He's really growing nice. The Romas are producing like crazy. I mean, there's just tomatoes all over these Roma plants. Tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. Man, they're just really going. I told Jen to get ready. It is about time to do some stuff with tomatoes because, I mean, you all see how many green ones are on here, and you're just seeing a few of the plants that I'm showing you. And I asked her what we wanted to make this year because we're still pretty good on like tomato juice and spaghetti sauce and stuff like that. When we make it, we make so much, and it usually lasts us a couple years. She said this year she's going to make ketchup. So that will be coming in a video very soon on us making ketchup and preserving that because we're a ketchup family. Mainly Raylan and I, we really like it. But you all know that if you buy ketchup, that is just full of all kinds of sugar and all kinds of terrible things, corn syrup and all that. So we're going to make our own homemade, healthy, and clean ketchup this year. All right, moving from the tomato bed, flipping over here. Here's our zucchini and squash plants that are really doing really good. I'm surprised we haven't got squash bugs just yet, but you can tell they're starting to get something eating them. But I think it's all those. I call them June bugs. Y'all call them Asian bugs. Might be a little bit different, whatever. They're eating the plants. They're the hard shell bugs that look like June bugs, but could have a different title to them. When it comes to specific bug types, and especially if you're going to spray anything on them, if you're going to do something organic, it's not so important to know what the bug is called. It's more to know, is it hard-shelled or soft-shelled, or is it an aphid to where it's so small that it's not there? And the reason that specifically matters is because certain organic things like BT and DE and neem oil all work for a different thing. For example, BT is for soft-sided bugs like caterpillars. DE is more for hard-shell bugs like June bugs or Asian bugs. And then neem oil is more for aphids. And this is actually the first year we haven't even done that. I haven't fertilized. I haven't put anything on anything. And if I'm just shooting you straight, I have no scientific backing from this or anything because I really haven't looked too much into it. But I don't trust really anything anymore. And I think that's a problem and a good thing. But I had in my mindset this year, and I told Jen, I was like, I'm really just going to try to go all completely natural. Like I'm going to plant, trust my soil, trust that I have good soil. And then I'm just going to, since I have a smaller garden, hand pick things. I'm going to do it myself, try to get out there as much as I can, but also just see how long I can grow things until the bugs take over. Because I really do like to test myself out in different situations because I don't want to get so used to gardening to where I'm always relying on BT or DE and this stuff. Because if I can't get my hands on those, will I still be able to garden successfully? Maybe, but as well as if I go ahead and teach myself how to not use it now. So this year I did that. I just decided I'm not going to trust anything. I'm just going to trust myself and my dirt and my seed. And from there on out, nothing else touches these plants. And, I feel very confident that we have some extremely organic vegetables and fruit that we are bringing into the house. And that makes me feel really good. I just don't want anything on my plants today. Because organic or not, if it's going to keep a bug away, what is it? All right, enough chitter chatter. Let's get back into this garden. So here are the pole beans, which I need to come in here and harvest these guys because you can see they're everywhere. These are so hard to see sometimes. They just really just blend in until they get a little bit too big because you want them a little bit smaller than that. You want them more of like this size. That's perfect. But like you can tell on these plants, they're getting ate alive. And this one is really a whole lot of the Asian / June bugs, whatever you want to call them. But I've been out here hand picking them. And for the most part, that's working. Do the plants look fantastic? Not really. But are they still growing and healthy? Yeah. And they're producing great fruit. However, my cucumbers are starting to tell a different story. I think we're running near the end of them. But things have a natural way of doing that. We have gotten so many cucumbers this year that we literally have enough pickles for the entire next year. We do eat a lot of pickles. However, we've made so many that it's insane. And we're going to start canning some soon. So that stressed out or worried about that plant starting to die back? Nope. It's getting close, to the end of July. And I'm just really happy that we had it for this long and was able to get the harvest that we could. And y'all know this always ends up being my favorite bed, and it's getting there right now. This is our pumpkin patch, and where I planted them later, I'm getting really excited because my pumpkins are going to be ready closer to fall this year rather than being ready next month. Because having pumpkins in August, that's very cool, but it's very hot. And you see we already starting getting some growing. The only thing that's kind of a bummer when it starts getting this big, because it'll keep going all the way out to here, is how I have to mow. So like you can see like the tall blotches of grass where the vines are going, but it's okay. I'll take it. The worst part is over there in that part because I can't really mow in there and get in there or weed eat. So it's just taking over everything it wants to take over. But I'm telling you right now, if you've never grown a pumpkin patch and just give it space for pumpkins to just take off and do their thing, it is one of the more rewarding things that you can do in a garden. I know that seems surprising, but it really is. And so we do kind of both ways. We do some pie pumpkins so we can get some of those smaller ones that we'll really use. But a lot of it is for fun and for decoration. However, we love pumpkins because it's natural dewormers or preventative dewormers and dewormers for your livestock. So all of this will become either our food. It'll be fun first because we'll just have pumpkins and decoration and carve them and things. But then all the rest of them will either be in our pantry or feeding our animals. So nothing goes to waste. And we always love, like when it does starting to come the fall and everybody's getting pumpkins, we'll be like, bring them on. Our animals will eat them. They'll love them. But that is another rewarding part about growing pumpkins. You're growing a lot of animal food. And for the gist of it, that's primarily the garden. We do have some of our green stalks that are just growing some flowers. And then we do have some co-crops that are going. Now, if y'all saw me plant those the other day on one of those videos, actually it's about a month back now. Those seedlings did not make it. They did not cut it because I had a bunch of cats decide to tear into them. And that wasn't very fun. But that's okay because I'm just going to go ahead and direct sow into those empty beds that we took the cauliflower and cabbage out and just replant that. I'm just going to direct sow. I'm just going to put the seeds right in them. And then we'll go from there and see how it works. Because at least according to the Old Farmer's Almanac, down here in the South, which, it's debatable if y'all think Kentucky's in the South now, but we're in the Appalachian Mountains, the southeast piece of Kentucky. We're supposed to be hotter longer. And it sounds like even maybe our humidity won't be as humid when it comes to late summer, but it does sound like we're going to be a little bit warmer this year, meaning that last frost is going to be pushed back maybe a few weeks later. So what that could mean for you is if you have some open beds and say you have some cucumbers that are going down or your bush beans are going down, those things are quick to turn around. So I would almost argue that right now you still have plenty of time. Even if you're direct sowing them, like cucumbers or green beans specifically, you can go and put them in another bed, get them started, and I'm sure you'll still get a few really good size harvests if you wanted to. And if not, put the co-crops in. Let's go ahead and get them bad boys started. They can handle it for a while. We're in some really big heat that we all got going on right now. But as seedlings, they'll be fine. They'll make it. Try to plant them in somewhere that maybe gets a little bit of shade, just so they're not getting torn up with the heat. But outside of that, just give them some water. And I think the most important thing to think about while you're doing your gardening this year is just not to stress too much. Don't stress out about it. We can't control the weather, even if it's being controlled. Who knows? We still have no power there. We still want to grow our own food, so we just have to adjust to what it is. So make sure you're checking out the Old Farmer's Almanac. It's just informative. It's giving you details of what the weather progression is looking like for the rest of the year. And that'll definitely be able to tell you what you can do in your garden for the remainder of time that we have. Because we all act like summer's over or on its way out because of public school, right? When public school goes back in, it's like summer's starting to wrap up. But we're nowhere near. We're still right in the heart of it, right in the middle of it, and there are plenty of growing days left. So keep powering on. Hopefully your plants are getting big enough to where you're not having to weed as much. That's the rough time in the spring, is getting your plants bigger than the weeds so they can take off. And hopefully you're really starting to enjoy some harvest. Really stay tuned though for that ketchup video. That's going to be pretty cool. I know a lot of people already make their own homemade ketchup, but this will actually be the first time we've done it. So any tips or tricks, definitely send them down below if you got any really awesome recipes. But other than that, y'all, I hope you enjoyed today's garden tour, garden walk, and learning how to just not trust much, but trust yourself and trust your garden and know that you can do this without anything. It's just about the effort and the level of attention that you want to give it. Y'all, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. We love y'all. Till the next one.